All right. That's good.
Welcome into Shaping Reality for February 2026. How are you all doing out there? It's a crazy world. And of course, we're joined by the fabulous Penny Kelly. Penny, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm just feeling so grateful that that terrible snowstorm that was hitting along the East Coast did not hit us. We only got 4 inches, and the wind was only like 20 miles an hour instead of 40 or whatever it was over there. So I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, I'm sorry because I know what that's like.
Yeah.
So yeah. Beyond that, um, I have been. I might have said last time I've been writing. For me, writing is kind of like a drug. So the dishes aren't done, and the laundry is not done, and things are not done. I'm like, I just want to keep writing.
And so, can you share the topic of what you're writing about?
Yeah, I have 4 books. One is the Garden Tarot. It's my tarot deck. So you have to write a book to go with the cards so that people know. One is it's a little tiny book of thoughts, and it's my thoughts that I started collecting in 1985. It's called "I Am a Strawberry." So. And then there's another one. It's like a user's manual for the BCX, which I haven't started that one yet. And then the 4th one is the Consciousness and Energy Volume 5 on the nature of reality. So,
Volume 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We have more to go.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So I have been enjoying life tremendously in my little corner and ignoring everything going on in the world. So,
yeah. Well, speaking of the BCX, you haven't seen this. This is John White's. It's called
I have not seen that, but I've heard.
It's the AHA Halo, you guys. And it's a little scalar device. Has a 3-foot radius, so you can set it next to you and program it. And
very nice.
Yeah. So we're
so good.
We're making progress.
Yeah, we are.
In frequency healing.
That actually brings me to what I want to talk about tonight. Why were frequencies so maligned? Why was Rife killed? And why was Nikola Tesla, starved out of existence? Why were the early versions of all the frequency machines and the people who created them, why were they destroyed? And, all of a sudden it dawned on me, even though I've heard all the stories, that it was because there was an absolute blackout. The deep state, did not want us to understand anything that had to do with frequencies. And I came along, after Kundalini, realizing that my entire frequency set had been changed. Thank goodness I was an engineer enough to be able to say, oh, this is what's going on, and to be able to explain Kundalini from a 20 instead of when you go to India and they explain it, not knowing what the heck it is. It's this mystical magic, it isn't.
Okay, because the vocabulary.
Put the BCX out there and start telling people, you need to get one of these. The people who have been building it were contacted me don't say anything more. Oh my God. And I'm like, what's the matter with you? What's your problem? We need these. This is a very important step for humanity. And there was just enough, what I'm going to say, hassling of the deep state, that they couldn't keep the lid on it anymore. And that whole thing around frequencies and consciousness and ETs, which are all what I want to talk about tonight, that just kind of got blown open. And they have tried to pretend that their whole way of invalidating people is still good, but it's not. It's not. we know too much. We have evolved too far. We have too much information, and that it's a wonderful, wonderful thing that we are starting to get this whole thing about frequencies. So, so let's talk about the ET thing for a minute. Did you ever think for a moment, um, why now? Why are ETs showing up all over the place over the last, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 years? Why not? We've got how many thousands, millions of years on this planet? So, what would you say off the top of your head?
I would say that because humanity has gotten to a place where they feel like there's an opportunity to have a meaningful interaction.
Okay, that's pretty good. Hopefully they have. Yeah. So,
I think some of us have a large, I don't think that the people that are really ready for it are in the majority, but I think it's a large enough minority that they feel like they can get a foothold.
right, right. So, what happens? What would we say to all those people who have had the experiences if it turned out that we could not ever prove that there was such a thing as ETs and UFOs? What would we say to all those people? Why have all those people around the planet, almost every country, has had, some sort of ET experience? What would that, how would we explain what happened to them if we couldn't go any further with proof?
Well, one of two things would have to happen. Either they would be ostracized or kind of looked at sideways as they have a mental problem or an issue, or what
Okay.
they're communicating is not true. And the other thing is that we would probably, what I see, we would ignore it.
Well, yeah,
It
there's
would act
probably
like
some
it
of
didn't
that.
exist.
Yeah. Okay. So when you have so many instances of ET reports, um, stories, abductions, sightings, um, people like, what's his name, William Thompson's book, Selected by Extraterrestrials. I haven't read many books on ETs because I always felt like I didn't need to. It's like, no, I have got my own experiences. And it's a long-term relationship that I've had for the whole life. And so, I can't cite a whole lot, but I've read two things. One is Whitley Strieber's Communion, and the other is William Thompson's Selected by Extraterrestrials. And what is so clear and obvious is that we're being, if ETs are not real, we have all these people saying, hey, reality is different than what we thought it was. How do we, what do we do about that? And when you get a certain percentage, and it doesn't have to be a lot, that have been exposed to this change, this shift in consciousness that comes with that kind of experience, then you have the potential for what some people are calling a timeline split, but it's really an evolutionary seeding that says we're headed towards something totally new and different, and we're past the point of being able to go back.
Yeah.
And I think that is so exciting. So, and I have been on board ships and I've been face to face with some other people. They're humanoid, but they don't look a whole lot like us. Some of them do, some do. But I've seen both, the people who look just like us and the people who are not just like us. And that whole thing changes you in a way that you cannot go back to your old normal. It's almost like a Kundalini experience all its own.
Doesn't the experience, and I'm thinking of the experiencers, people like Whitney Strieber and,
Yeah.
the notables, doesn't that being exposed to that different frequency of someone from another
Absolutely.
place, doesn't that adjust your frequency, or you recognize it, or there's some kind of shift within the experiencer that you can never really go back to your frequency set prior to that experience?
Right. Yeah. When you have that encounter, your knees turn to water, you feel the energy changing all the way from your feet up. It's like you liquidate and then you reform.
Okay. Yeah.
Almost on the spot. Some people.
Well, can I stop back? One thing that I'm deeper and deeper over time, broader knowledge. Is this the closest we have an experience with an extraterrestrial territory, or is it just new territory for this iteration of Earth human?
We're not nearly as advanced as some of the others have been before us. That's and the when you somebody sent me a wonderful book. It's called, I think the I can't remember the exact title, but the guy who wrote it was named Delgado, I believe, and it was about the fifth sun or the sixth sun. And I understood when reading that somebody started keeping track of the times, the number of civilizations that we had to rebuild from after the sun did its flash thing, did its solar flash.
And the flash was before the flood.
Now the flood was one of the flashes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, and there are moments when the planet gets a little wonky and wobbles, which when I was with the robes, I did see that. It's like, oh, that's messy. You get the mud floods in those kinds of situations. But we have had civilizations that have gone back hundreds of millions of years, hundreds of millions. And the whole civilization either figures out how to handle reality, how to handle the power of life. Life is this amazing thing. And we're meant to evolve and grow. And we don't always figure it out in a way that we think is good. And so when that happens, the people of that civilization will literally destroy it through their own, they'll have a reason. Well, it was a war. Well, we were attacked. Well, the planet rolled over, or the poles changed, which is a big deal. Then you get big messes on a lot of land, and all that kind of stuff. But we here in this time had in our head that we have a history of so let's say a civilization doesn't make it. Okay, people who have been in that civilization can get reborn, can reincarnate on the land again, and they can say, well, we remember this. And so they're trying to rebuild, they try to speed it up. And sometimes it's a pretty quick process. Sometimes it's not so quick if they go back to primitive. Takes a little bit longer. But the goal has been to be able to evolve to the point that we can handle with our own creative consciousness anything that we need to create, to avoid, to institute, to destroy, to put in place, to take out of place, whatever is required, in a way that is loving and has a sense of humor and is not afraid of violence or aggression, and knows how to channel that, because aggression is really part of the creative drive within the human. So is violence. And so we say, oh, that's bad, but it's really part of that creative drive. And what's good about it is, how are you going to respond to that? That's the critical piece. It's the response. And to get creative and to be generous and to say there's enough for everybody, those are things that we are not doing right now. And so we're likely to destroy ourselves if we're not careful. And this year is the turning point. This year is a critical point.
Okay, can I stop you here and just kind of try to summarize to make sure we're all following you?
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So
I'm definitely out of the box today.
But okay. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm just trying to ask the questions that I always wish I would have asked 2 days after our conversations. I'm trying to actually ask them.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that there is a cycle of advancement that happens with each civilization on the planet. And it also sounds like that the souls that are involved in may continue to choose to be involved in the next go round and the next go round and the next go round. And they will, on a higher level and a more of a collective level, kind of bring in information they think might help them get further along the next go round.
That's right.
It almost sounds like, all right, so we have heard from you and others that Earth is an experiment. This is, human, this is an experiment. And so we keep trying to get it right. And every time we come down, we learn something new about what works and what doesn't work. And then we go out and try it again.
Right.
Is that correct?
That is pretty much correct.
Okay.
So I would add that when, like for instance, an individual is having a life on planet Earth in 2026, and maybe they were an individual who died in Pearl Harbor, or they were a slave in Roman times, or whatever. Lots and lots of people. I've looked at a lot of past lives, and most people have very ordinary lives. It's amazing. And the ones they love best are the simple ones. The ones where they were, life was good and they had a few kids and a wife or a husband and they got old and died. And that was it. People, it's amazing. So anyway, you have you have a whole collection of lives that's all of those lives are what make up your soul. Your soul is your big consciousness, okay? The whole self. So when you come back, if the civilization redefines the soul as something else or never defines it at all, then the people never really get the idea that they have access to all that wisdom, all that experience, if they will go inward and learn to connect using frequency with those other selves that they have been. And we have not done that in this world, in our time. We have
in this particular civilization. You're not necessarily talking about your lifetime or my lifetime,
right?
You're talking about this iteration of Earth humans.
Yeah, this group of humans has pretty much been so in love with external things. Whatever it's been, from the steam engine to glass window panes in their little hovel to whatever. We just haven't been encouraged to look inside. And the religions that existed before Christianity that did encourage that were wiped out. And and I also am realizing that yeah, I had an odd experience just this last couple weeks in which um, I was reading I was watching, and I think I talked about this with JC a little bit. A video, and the name of the video was the three dreams that everyone from Tartaria has in this day and age. And I came up on my feet and I clicked on it. I was busy doing something. I was only half listening. But they got to this point where they were describing what they saw in these dreams, and it was exactly what I had written about in Consciousness and Energy, Volume 3. And so it was like, what? So I sat down and started the whole video again and thought, oh my gosh. And listened to the talk and the stories and the things that they were talking about. 4,000 people have reported that same dream, that same set of dreams. And for me, it was just a bunch of memories, a bunch of pieces that I finally put together when I was writing Volume 3. And it just set me back on my heels. And I realized that that's how we got to this topic tonight, that the reason that Tartaria was wiped out was because everything they were doing was about frequencies. They were using frequencies for everything, for healing, for education, for everything, to manage the weather even. And that it came down to, it's either frequencies and we can't have the control that we want, or we have to get rid of them. So they got rid of them.
Okay, well, wait, who got rid of who?
I'm not sure who all was involved, but let's just say that the Rothschild family was a big factor in that, starting back in the 1700s. And it continued to today.
So if that is the case, if they were wiped out because of frequencies, then that would be a very good explanation of why frequencies were so suppressed.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want anybody to know that you could manipulate frequencies and therefore manipulate reality, because you can. And that's, they wanted control of consciousness. Consciousness is frequencies. If you can manage your own frequencies, then your consciousness can't be controlled. And they were moving toward making sure that they could control everybody's consciousness with that stupid shot. And they succeeded in putting that into a lot of people. And that's unfortunate, but you can learn to get beyond that. You can.
You had a girlfriend that did.
Yeah.
So I remember a story from you that she said she knew it wasn't going to be healthy for her.
Yeah.
That her family pressured her into it. She immediately felt the disconnection from source.
Immediately. Yeah.
But ended up reconnecting.
Right. It took her 2 years. Yeah. And that was one of my students. She still is, she's kind of, her skills with consciousness have just blossomed. And they were at a very high peak, and then she got that shot and they just disappeared, all of them. She's an accomplished dreamer, an accomplished out-of-body journeyer, an accomplished alternate reality kind of person and explorer of consciousness. And all of a sudden it was all gone. And she did a lot of healing, a lot of detoxing, a lot. And some of that incredible will that she has in self-discipline, all of that was put to bear on recovering those abilities. And so that's, I know it's possible. It's a tough row to hoe once you've gotten, that equipment in you, because it continues to self-organize. But we have this knowledge of frequencies that is spreading in a lot of different directions. And as I look at what's happening in the world, and the other night I thought I saw a UFO in the sky. It was dark, it was late, it was like, holy cow, maybe it was a star. It was too late for me to go get binoculars and look, etc. But I thought, I've never seen that particular star in that particular location, and the thing was huge. And
Did you say hello?
I said good night. I'm tired. I'll come on back tomorrow night. But it wasn't there the next night. So I thought, well, okay,
All right. So I want to kind of dig a little deeper into this, where we're at in the conversation. So if we keep this cycle going on Earth, and the reason I'm thinking about that is I heard a little short lecture on the civilizations that were in Mexico, and they were, the gods came down and they had to sacrifice and blah, blah, blah. Same old thing, same old thing. So we're going through these cycles. What's the end goal, Penny, or is the goal the experience?
It's the experience. The goal is to be able to get through physical life to the point, and I've had to revise my theories on this. So breaking news. We are moving toward and need to continue learning how to handle creative power, because we're moving toward letting go of the body. Now, we humans here on this planet, I thought for a long time that the goal was to hang on to the physical and not just turn into light. So a few months ago, I had a conversation with one of the ET people that I am in communication with, and they said, you should stop saying that, because you already are light. It's too late to not turn into light. You're made of light. It's the physical stuff that you're trying to hang on to, but it's a pretty big damper. And the goal, and I've heard this before, but I didn't really want to think about it at the time. It was like, no, I want to be part of the group of immortals. Well, to do that, you have to let go of the physical and keep your consciousness together and learn how to generate a body of light that looks just like a body. And so it's like, okay, all right, this is kind of, I got to retract what we're doing here. But the goal is to get through all of the lessons, as much insight and wisdom and grace with every situation, gracefulness and smoothness as you possibly can, so that when you are no longer faced with the very limited number of situations that physical reality presents, and you're out there in the bigger reality where much more is happening, you need to keep that centered, graceful ability to use consciousness. Boom, like right now, instantly. You're in tune with everything happening around you, and you're responding and moderating, and I'll say managing, for lack of a better term, what is happening. And that's the goal. And then you ascend from there and you evolve from there. So.
Okay. So first of all, I'm disappointed. I want to keep the body.
I do too. And you can. There are people here that have kept the physical body.
And the reason I say that, and maybe some of you watching will agree, there's just a lot of cool things that come with having a physical body.
I know.
A lot of experiences. There's the food, there's touching things, there's feeling the wind on your face.
I know. The beauty. There's beauty in so many things.
Yeah.
It's just delicious. Music. Of course, you can hear music anywhere.
Right.
But the physical is pretty special.
It is. So if
Yeah.
the goal was to organize your consciousness enough, focus it enough, be in charge of it enough
Yes.
to go towards immortality, not go back into the soup again,
Right.
why go here? Because there's so many different, and my understanding is there's so many different civilizations where they're not in physical form. And you can,
Right.
why this reality system to accomplish that?
Okay, because you can't handle those realities that are not physical. You're going to stay in the physical, at the physical level. There's a lot of different physical realms, and they all offer something special. Some, one that I've been in has extraordinary physical capabilities. So you can run, like we drive cars like 50, 60 miles an hour. You can fly, you can jump, if there's a river in your way, you jump over the river. And it doesn't matter that it's a quarter of a mile wide. In others, I mean, there's just all kinds of different physicalities. And you can go to any of them. There's too many to count, millions across the universe. It's called the physical universe. But there are other, I'm going to say, joys and delights and pleasures that come with some of the higher states of consciousness as well. Things like being able to like generate light, things that where you can just make food appear. Everybody loves food, but you can't eat physical food when you're a light being. You have to eat light food. And they manifest peaches and things like that because of the frequency of the peach. They're not, and they it's not quite the same, but it's very similar. And so.
Okay, so why are so many off-planet civilizations so very engaged and interested and involved in what we're doing?
Yeah, because we're at a point. First of all, they're hoping that we will not allow the takeover that was in progress to happen. And I think enough people are awake that it is not going to happen. And that's been a slow, bitter pill for the people who left. Let me say it this way. There were people who started leaving a couple of years ago. Some stayed saying, it's not over yet. We still have a chance.
So are you saying that some people left, their higher soul decided to leave because they didn't feel like it was going to work and they didn't want to hang around for the ugly stuff?
No. I'm saying that there were beings here that were trying to take over the planet. And they're really the ones that left. They left a couple of years ago. But
there's still some left, right?
A few stayed, thinking it's not too late. And if we succeed, then we'll be in charge. Well, they're now kind of bitter that that it doesn't look like it's going to work. And we have, I'm going to say, like a huge number of ancestors, if I can put it that way, who are among those beings from other places who have said, come on, you tap into your ancestry. You have great power. You have tremendous potential that you haven't even tapped. Most of you don't even know that you have it. And so they're hoping that we will do that, that we'll step up to our own potential, even if we sloppily and crabbily move into a position where we succeed, and then, you know, we've got a mess on our hands. It's like, no, it's okay. Just get out of the situation that you're in. And the step up in consciousness that's going to allow, once the suppression of frequencies is done, then that opens the door to a very rapid move in terms of technology, in terms of being able to interface with some people that are not, I mean, there's a lot of other humans here that, you know, that are really very, what would I say? They're very well cloaked, put it that way.
You mean not necessarily Earth humans?
Right. Totally different beings, and obviously so.
Okay. Can we stop for a minute? Because I don't want to get too far down the road. I want some clarification.
Okay.
And I think that we all...
Stop me at any time.
Okay. I think that we all would understand that there's been a very concerted effort to cap our frequencies or to manipulate our frequencies.
Right.
I think we all get that, but I think it would be helpful for you to kind of list the ways in which that is being done so that we can have a little more clarity.
Okay. So, oh my God, let me count the words.
Where do you start?
So one of the big ways is that's being used, and there have been a number of changes in how that's been done over the last, I'll say, 500 years. Okay. So one of the big ways that has been kept has been encouraging people to get into houses and to not be in contact with Mother Nature. The industrial movement, industrialization, whatever you want to call it, that was one big, they succeeded with that, okay? The next thing was in the degradation of food. When you're not taking in the frequencies, then parts of you stop working and parts of the brain shrink. And that has occurred. Another is, and this is more recent, but long about the 1940s or 50s, it was through vaccinations. The smallpox was the first one, and then it was like they have a plan, but they are very dynamic with the plan. They're watching to see what other possibilities could we use. Another thing was in the world wars. You know, let's get those people fighting and keep them fighting, kill off as many as we can, make them fearful, etc. So that war is a great way to get rid of as many humans and to instigate or to create a climate of fear. Another thing is the increase in the number of vaccinations. We started with one, smallpox vaccination, and then polio, and then DPT, diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus. And now children within the first few days of birth get something like 70 some, I think it's 72, 67, something like that, vaccinations, and they don't need them. Another is cesarean birth. When you don't have people who are born vaginally, they're born cesarean section, and you don't have people who have a culture of understanding how to build consciousness, those two things together that's a huge takedown right there. Everything in our world, from the choice of electrical systems using 60 amp, alternating current, 120 volt, 110 volt, etc., alternating current, those frequencies are incredibly destructive to human cellular division and reproduction. Why did we choose that? We had free energy that was available to us. Well, because, just we'll say because, because they did. So there's everything in our world has been engineered to produce frequencies that take us down. And then the education system that has been set up to make sure that we venture nowhere. We just stay within our little boxes. And that, social media was another big thing. Let's get people distracted, and that breaks down relationships. So one thing after the next, all very practical and all seen by us, most of them is very wonderful. We can't have our civilization with and be able to evolve with the kind of frequencies that we have surrounded ourselves by. And the latest thing is actually shoes that insulate us from the earth altogether. And so we don't pick up energies from the earth through rubber or vinyl soles on our shoes, and that stops, or it obstructs the electrical system of the body, which is a part of the earth. And so it's one thing after the next, after the next. And the result has been where we're at now, people who have not been aware of what's been going on at any level, or they don't want to know, they don't want to see, they don't want to hear, they don't want to believe. And so we're at a point where now we have this ET, we have these swarms of ETs that show up regularly. And why do they do that? They show up to shake people out of their box and just say, oh, what is that? How is that happening? And so here, the result is that you end up thinking, okay, reality must not be what I thought it was. And that is what the ETs are after, is for you to get out of the box and look at the greater reality that we have right in front of us right now.
Okay. Lots of questions on that one. That was really good. Thank you.
Okay.
It's easy as a human with our programming and our us versus them, bad versus good,
Yeah.
thinking, to where my mind goes is, okay, we've had all these obstacles put in our way for us to create that connection. That kind of the game is coming down into density and seeing if you can get back up again.
Right.
So were these challenges that you just listed, everything from the vaccines to the education system to the shoes or this or that, it's easy to say, well, that is the bad guys doing that to us. Or is it us working with the other side, with the bad guys,
yes,
in order to set up a more challenging obstacle course to strengthen our ability to climb back up again?
Okay, we were on our way toward an absolutely fabulous reality and an understanding of frequencies. We were right there.
With
And
Tartaria?
Yeah. And that was just destroyed. We do have some people that have made connections with some of the ETs. The ETs who are wanting control look for people that are willing to get outside the rules, to work outside what I'll call normal social, betterment for the whole planet. And they, it's like, I probably should post that recording I did a couple of years ago. That was really, look, this is who I am, this is where I'm from, and this is what's happening on this planet, and this is how they are doing it. And just very briefly, religion is the first step, and then the destruction of a small group of people They ruin a small group of people. They get into a distant village somewhere, and they either kill the parents so the children are left half wild, or the children are end up they go to live with somebody who's not as nice, and those children are psychologically damaged, and they keep nurturing that psychological damage until they've got a fully psychopathic or sociopathic or borderline personality, and then they start helping that personality to win in every situation. And we have a whole society now run by psychopaths and sociopaths and people without a conscience. That's what a psychopath is. It's someone with no conscience. What is a conscience? It's the ability to feel, and they don't feel.
And I think that that's hard. And I was thinking about that earlier today, Penny.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard for a lot of people to imagine the functioning profile of a species that doesn't have emotions and sympathy and compassion.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, a clunky but workable analogy would be expecting, you know, a cheetah to care about who, you know, have sympathy for what kill they've got. It's just not there.
Yeah.
They just don't have it. That's not how they function. A cheetah is looking for a meal.
That's right.
They're not feeling bad about you, you know, leaving your kids and your family behind.
That's right.
They just have a different operating system. Their goals are different.
That is due to the matrix of frequencies that make up the cheetah.
Yeah, and they're you know, where a lot of human goals are friendship, love,
Yep.
a sense of belonging, you know, joyful things, where that it looks like that profile, what they're after is power and control.
Yes, and they have also a drive toward transcendence. So the human being, you know, for those that have taken my classes, I will explain the brain and how it works. The human brain only has two capacities. One is pain and one is pleasure. And what is the pain for? It's to teach you to move away from that pain. What is the pleasure for? It's to teach you to move toward that pleasure, because the God state is a state of bliss.
Of bliss.
And that's, you know, you have to have been in that to understand that there's no description that even comes close to that. But if you get somebody who, you know, who gets, I'm going to say, culturalized to only respond to pain, and it takes 72 hours for a human infant to be habitualized to pain as opposed to pleasure. So we have this immense struggle that we go through for our whole life, because some of us don't get loved, some don't get nurtured, some, you know, get bad parents. I had wonderful parents, thank God, but some don't have wonderful parents. And so all of that predisposes that child toward pain. And then when you get somebody looking for, you know, somebody who is predisposed to pain and starts nurturing that and furthering that, then you get the kind of people running the world right now.
All right. But my understanding is that there's two choices: life or death. You align with life or you align with death.
Right.
If you align with death, which is the people that are running the earth right now, there's only so far you can go before you have to flip in order to keep going. So as you move up in, I don't know, levels or, you know, that sort of thing, there's only so far you can go if you're aligned with death.
Well, what do you mean? Say more. How only so far? You can only go so far.
Okay, so, you know, we're talking about, you know, we're in the fourth dimension now. We're seeking to go to the fifth. You know, I'm talking about moving up in dimensions, or expanding consciousness or
Okay.
this or that. My understanding is there's only so far you can go if you're not aligning with life.
You can't, right? You can't go anywhere if you're aligned with death. And if you can't, that's the purpose of the physical experience, is to get you to move beyond the three-dimensional pain and move into love, move into gracefulness, move into laughter and joy and beauty and truth and creativity and wisdom, power.
But isn't that where we came from? So why come here?
No, we didn't come from those. I mean, that's the core of our consciousness.
Right.
But you came from your other lives. So when a soul is born, it's a little bitty thing. And through many, many lifetimes, it becomes bigger and more comprehensive and more powerful and wiser. You can, as an old soul, choose to get born in a rough time in order to be of service in that time.
Aren't all souls the same age? Didn't we all individuate at the same time?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, not even close. So where did you hear that? Did you hear that from somewhere?
I must have, because I certainly couldn't have come up with that myself.
You probably could have, but
well, if there's no time and we're all little sparks of source,
there is time. That is not true either. That's a new age thingy.
Well, Cliff High says it, and he's not new age.
There is such a thing as time, but people do not understand what time is or how it appears.
There's a lot we don't understand.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So let's go back to, so there is source, whatever you want to call it. There's the primal energy, that state of pure bliss, that core energy. Right. How does it happen, Penny, if you know, that a spark of that or a chunk of that individuates in an effort to become immortal? How does that happen?
Oh my God. Okay. So there's a basic process. You have source, and it is absolutely silent and still. There is no body there. There is no civilization. It's just this immense eternal field of source that you can't describe it. When you've been in it, even when you've been in it, you can't describe it, because it is so, it's this gigantic emptiness. It's empty of everything. No motion, no movement, no color, no people, no places, no past, no present, no future, no nothing. Nothing is there. There's a thought there or an awareness there that doesn't move. And when that awareness starts to move, if it has a thought, and the thought is I am, then it sparks the opportunity for what I'm going to say, for frequencies to begin aggregating. Okay. And they self-organize. And that aggregation, it becomes a particle, and then the particles recognize one another. Oh my, there's other particles here. What can we do together? The drive to build something bigger, better, beautiful, it starts right from that beginning movement. So I'm just going to take an isolated incident, and this is not going to fit well with those people that are very religious, but this is how it works. Let's say that you are a young mother, okay? And you want to get pregnant, and you dream about getting pregnant, and you want a baby, and you imagine holding the baby and talking to it and feeding it and loving it and caring for it, raising it. And that, and you end up having a baby, okay? It could be that that's a brand new soul. It doesn't often happen because people look for bodies to inhabit, but it could be a brand new soul. and it has experiences here, grows up, dies. Was like, oh my God, that was a wonderful experience. I want to go back there and I want to do some more, learn some more. We are much more, it's kind of a lame example, but we are much more powerful in terms of creating than we think we are. So maybe you never get pregnant, but you have created this energy of an individual that you were going to love, and that was, going to be this perfect child. That also creates, and that can start a whole new soul, who then goes through the whole process, which may involve hundreds, thousands of years of experience, depending on how fast that soul learns. So it's much messier, and it's much more right in your face, creation is, than you might think. And a soul is just a grouping of frequencies that recognize we could work together. We could do something together. And they do. So.
Okay. Thank you for that. I love when the whole plasma thing comes out, I'm going to be so thrilled because I love the whole topic, and I'm sure there's going to be so much great information. So I want to ask an off topic or a kind of a weird question.
Okay.
And then I want to move into why the ETs are showing up, why they show up in certain places, why they show up to certain people.
Yeah.
Okay. What happened to Tartaria? How was it destroyed? Was it melted? It almost looks like it was melted.
Well, there were a series of things that happened. The first thing was that occasionally on planet Earth, the Earth wobbles pretty seriously. And some of those are minor, but they're huge destruction. Huge. It's also, I shouldn't say this, there are beings who are capable of making a planet roll by altering the magnetic field, the electromagnetics of that planet. They can get it to tip or tilt or whatever. And I suspect that the last time there was a planet roll, which I think was maybe like 3,000 years ago, maybe 1,500 years ago, that may have been assisted by some people who wanted to see more destruction.
So they wanted the planet, so they had to get rid of the people on there. Okay.
Right. Okay. So so we had this whole civilization. It was all across Asia, the whole thing, almost top to bottom, side to side. The life that I remember was in Mongolia, and it was amazing. I'll just leave it at that. But that was some difficulties. They recovered and rebuilt, but I think there were some other things that I don't know about in there that had to do with difficulties with climate. When the planet rolled, if you have somebody who's 10, 12, 15 feet tall, they need a lot more food than somebody who's 5 feet. And a lot of people died just because there wasn't enough food. And I think that was a result, and I'm kind of guessing here, but I think that was a result of that roll of the planet. And then we had, from that point forward, let's say 1,500 years ago, whatever happened, there are some records that say the sun didn't shine, didn't come through the clouds and the mist. It was like twilight for like years and years. Around 575 AD. At that point, there were some real battles. Our history, none of the history that we know is correct. So, so I don't want to say too much. It's too much cognitive dissonance for people. But along about 200-300 years ago, in the middle of the 1700s, There was some kind of war that we have not been told about. You can see signs of it here and there, but it wiped out a lot of people. There were still some people left. They rebuilt again, and wiser and better. But then along came the Rothschilds, and this was actually a vision that I had of the father, Meyer Bauer, Amschel Bauer was his name. He was a refugee from the Tartarian region, and he was living, I don't know, it looked like somewhere in either Germany or somewhere in that area. And he was in a ghetto. He was Jewish, and because he was Jewish, he wasn't allowed to live with other people. All the Jewish people were in the ghettos. And he was walking home. This was the vision. He was walking home. He had a gold shop. He was a gold trader. And even though he had managed all this money in gold for all the rich people, he was not rich. But there were a bunch of little boys that were running around him, and they were making fun of him. And it would have been the same situation as a black boy in the South here in the U.S. in say the 1800s. And he's walking home, and a bunch of little white boys would gather around him, calling him names and making fun of him. He didn't dare say a thing or do anything. Well, the same thing was true of this guy named Bauer. And he made a resolve in that walk that he was going to get control of the world, and he was going to make little white boys pay. And I had that vision years and years and years ago. And he had a son named Meyer Amschel Bauer, and Meyer inherited the gold shop, and he then had 4 sons. And he raised all of his sons to understand the gold business and to get control of the banking and the money. And he's the one who said, if I have control of your money, I don't give a damn what your rules are. You can have all the governments and make all the laws you want. I'm gonna, I've got you by the short hairs. And that desire to control the world is really made him a sitting target, a perfect target for any kind of ETs who wanted to take over. And they have helped him and that Rothschild family immensely. And they have been moving toward getting full control of the entire world, with or without the help of people that they knew were not from here. And that's where we're at today, is facing the fact that they were using all of the child stuff and all of the rapist stuff and all of the fraud stuff. And once you said, okay, I want to be part of this great power structure, this is amazing, they had you by the short hairs. And you did what they said, or they would let it be known that you had done something nasty. And that was Epstein's whole modus operandi. He worked for the Rothschild family, and he was very open about that. And so here we are, coming face to face with the fact that we have all been distracted away using frequencies we've been distracted away from what? What were they trying to distract us from? The fact that they were doing the kinds of things that they were doing. They didn't want us to use our consciousness to figure out what's going on in the back corners, what's happening in the shadows, what's happening in terms of, the total depravity, etc. And so they've been very successful, and somehow we humans are racing against our will to wake up, to catch up, and to say, "What the hell? What are you doing?" That's enough of that. And their whole system is about to come down, and with it is going to come our whole reality.
Okay.
We need to catch that reality and in the fall and hang on to it so it doesn't fall and crack. So
I'm trying to formulate my question. It's a little bitter.
okay, you can be bitter we'll give you a minute.
Okay. When the latest Epstein drop, the big one, 3 million files on a Friday, came out.
Yep.
I was like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's finally in black and white. This is gonna wake up the world. And then Sunday came, and everybody sat in front of their TVs to watch the Super Bowl. And everybody went to the stadium, to cheer on the Super Bowl.
I know.
And I'll tell you what, you could have scraped me off the floor with a shovel.
Mm-hmm.
I was devastated, not by what was in the files, because I knew that.
Yeah.
I was devastated by the total apathy.
I know.
Of humanity. And I'm still devastated. And this is my complaint, you guys. I'll make it quick.
Oh, wow.
I generally socialize with women my age, so I can say something about, the Epstein files, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And 99 times out of 100, the response to me would be, "Did you see my new outfit?"
Oh, okay. Wow.
So I am in a place where I can't believe the world did not stop. Yeah. I cannot believe that people are still saying, "You want Taco Bell for dinner?" I am so dumbfounded that I was to the point where I was talking to my team saying, "We just got to pull the plug. We got to pull the plug." Most people are not even, it's not even on their radar.
Mm-mm.
And this is my fantasy, you guys. This is where you get in life. Okay. You know how in those good old Midwestern local bars, the town bars, and Bob walks in and he goes, "Go team, did you see that play? Blah, 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 blah." I want Bob to walk in and say, "Did you see the feds going down? Did you see the bankers are on the ropes?" That's what I want to see. But people, they'll whisper, "Oh, the Epstein files." It's not front and center. It is. I am so distressed by that.
No.
So I don't know, Penny. I vacillate between, we just got to pull the plug. This is painful.
Don't pull it too fast.
I'm not in charge of pulling the plug, clearly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank goodness. But I hear you, and I know how that feeling of it's hopeless. It's not. They're not going to get it. They're blah 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 blah.
And they don't want to get it. And I can talk to somebody about something, the Epstein files or the deep state or the Illuminati, and they will ask 0 questions.
I've noticed that, but I have seen not a whole lot of evidence, but if I just look in my family, I have a pretty big family. Okay. What I noticed after this Super Bowl thing was that they were all like, you've seen one, you've seen them all. I was like, what? These were guys who were playing fantasy football like crazy on 6 different fantasy football teams, arguing with one another about this Patriot and that Seahawk or this, whatever, whoever, for the last 25, 30 years. And when I said, well, did you see the halftime game? Or the halftime, what do they call that? The halftime show? The answer was, No, the one that the NFL put on was stupid. We watched Kid Rock. He put on a different halftime show. That was totally different. And so I went looking to see what was different about it. And what was different was that Kid Rock said, look, I've had enough of that Satanist crap. We're doing something that's decent. And I was stunned. I thought, wow, these are grown men and, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s that are saying something's not right. Something's not right. They're getting the feeling something's not right. And they don't know what it is. And they're just beginning to dip their toe into, the kind of trafficking that was going on, the kind of fraud. They've been paying attention to the money, and they know that something is really rotten in that area. But my thought was, oh wow, we're moving in a direction that says, the normies are saying something's not right. They don't quite maybe get it all. But they're not oblivious.
Okay. So I hear what
there's hope.
I hear what you're saying, and I can see little glimmers here and there. Like I have a girlfriend who's in the medical profession. She got a couple of the, but she's not getting it anymore, so she's kind of, and then I see people walking away from alcohol. People are not drinking like
that's the same thing. I'm noticing that too.
I think it just doesn't fit with the frequency anymore. It just doesn't,
That's right.
So I see that. For me, maybe I'm expecting too much. I expected the world to stop.
I know.
For everybody to just stop,
right,
and say, yeah, and surround every government building and not, just stop. They're not stopping. They're still playing pretend in the Matrix.
Yeah.
What about what's happening, the little bitty shifts? Why is that so attractive to the ETs? Like, are they seeing something I'm not seeing? Are they knowing that once that change starts, that it accelerates? Like, what is it that because they wouldn't be hanging around here unless it was interesting, would be my guess. Or encouraging or exciting.
Or hopeful.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's the same thing as the reason that I came here, the reason I volunteered for this, what looked like an easy job.
Joke's on you.
Yeah. It's this knowing that if you can shift one consciousness, then that one is going to affect at least 5 to 10 more around them. And that if you just, keep on keeping on, it's slow. It's a slow slog of a process. And I remember when I started teaching, that was 1980. So what is this, 26? However many years that is.
46 years.
Yeah. I started teaching intuition and consciousness way back then. And I remember thinking, this is useless. But I loved teaching. So I couldn't quit. I couldn't quit. I fell in love with watching people open up and blossom and become these amazing human beings. And they got healthier. And so all of that was really the attractive point. And it wasn't until I had the argument with the ETs on board the ship in which they said it's too late. And I said, no, well, I won't say what I said, but it was like, absolutely not. It's not too late. You don't understand how these humans work. And, it's like nothing. And then boom, the whole thing blows up and changes. It takes people a while to get it. And I said, don't you dare quit. We aren't quitting, and don't you dare abandon us. there's a very good chance. And so we kept on.
Okay, so what's in it for them? Like what?
A planet that is free, and you don't see. Yeah. Okay. So you have to have an appreciation for the process of evolving to become these wonderful. There's not very many beings who make it the whole way into the God state. I'll call it that, for lack of a better term, into that incredible bliss and power, wisdom, etc., and still be an individual. So that is such a small number compared to the number of people that will appear or will be generated on a planet. There's all kinds of people at the physical level. There's a little less at 4D, a little less at 5D, less at 6, less at 7, and then you get these amazing beings who are, I mean, you can't even look at them without shielding your eyes, because because to look is to mirror for just a split second. And it's a huge shock to your own system. And it's likely to, when I said earlier, you melt kind of for a minute, you liquidate, and then you reform. It's very difficult to reform when you have encountered that kind of power and that feeling. It's kind of like being electrocuted, is a good analogy. So, and in a wonderful way. And some of the first encounters I had with beings, they would come up and, put their hands on me, and I thought I was being electrocuted. That is literally how it feels.
Even after Kundalini?
Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh. They are, the human body is this amazing, beautiful thing, but it's really fragile and it's really not very evolved. And when it touches some other, I'll say, form or level, probably level of existence, the entire body, you're likely to wet your pants because the shock is that bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's something you don't forget.
So who's coming and let me formulate. Okay. Who's out there? Because I hear there's just a lot going on in the sky.
Yeah, there is.
And then also, I would think, in my own self-centered way, that all these ETs appearing to all these people, it's like, well, where's mine?
They don't waste time on people who don't need it. Number one.
Well, I would think that they would. Well, you've said before that they see the light.
That's true.
People light up. I'm lighting up here,
Yeah. Yeah, but they can tell immediately. They don't just read your lights; they read your mind. They read your whole symphony. Just recently, I heard the music, my own music, and it woke me right up. It was like, what is? Oh my God! So
that must have been so cool.
It was so beautiful, and I was reminded, yeah, we have these amazing skills. Anyway, they read, listen, see, feel the whole being all at once. And if somebody is struggling, like I was badly with Kundalini, they come and try to help. But if you're doing okay and you're reaching out and you're holding this position of, look, we need to do something different here, then they're like, yeah, keep going. And they move to the person who's struggling. So, and that's part of the reason that they are supporting is they know, we all know, anybody who has grown, that it's a process, and it's a difficult process, and that there's sometimes great pain in that process. And so they know that if you got the right stuff, you're going to be fine. If you don't have the right stuff, or you were too rigid, like I was, then they'll come and offer to help. But they want people to meet them at their level.
Yeah. Do you think that your Kundalini experience was generated by your higher self or by an outside triggering?
I think that's so. Okay, so back in the day, I'm going to say it was 1977, something like that. I moved to West Bloomfield Township in Michigan, and I had a small apartment, and there was a creek nearby, and I used to walk down to that creek all the time, and I didn't. And while I was in that apartment, I had an experience in which I had a whole missing weekend. I was living alone.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was, up there in that area. Well, I used to go walking by that creek, and I have this vague memory of walking by the creek and coming back and not being able to remember what had just happened. It was one of those moments, and like an hour or two was gone. This wasn't a weekend was gone. This was like an hour. And I remember thinking, and this was totally unlike me at the time, because I didn't know anything, I didn't want to admit a single thing. And this was before Kundalini. They did something to me. That was the thought. And that was such a weird thought that I dismissed it. It's like, where'd that come from? But later, after Kundalini happened, I thought, that those walks down by that creek, all by myself, nobody around. There was something about those walks that I think offered them an opportunity not only to extract me for a brief moment, but to do some things that predisposed me to leave and go back to Detroit and, and get a job as an engineer instead of what I was doing at the time. So
I have to tell you, I feel like we just started talking. It's been an hour and a half.
Oh, we should quit. People, yeah, we should quit.
I can't let you go. We've got like a few minutes, because I know people are saying, talk about what's going on the planet right now.
Yeah.
Is there any little thing or any little tidbits? Gosh, this was so interesting. The time went by so fast.
I know it does. So the reason I wanted to bring it up, and maybe we have to have some more conversation about what's happening, but what's happening in terms of, not in terms of the bad guys, I'm talking about the perspective and the expectations and the work going on by those from other places in the universe, okay? They know that when somebody has a little bit of a wake up, that, so they can present themselves, so that some people who are totally oblivious will say, oh my God, that looks like a UFO. And it is. It's a UFO. Or somebody gets abducted and freaks out over, etc. Or whatever the experience is. What happens in that moment when that person who was not really looking for that experience is that they end up immediately detaching from their old version of themselves. And they live in this place called the marginal, not the imaginal, the marginal. And the marginal space is that place where you're not there and you're not here, and so you're like, wait, what happened to the familiar world that I thought I knew? the world I thought I understood. And so what I see happening is that ETs are showing up sometimes en masse in places that they know they're gonna trigger some type of like separation from the old system. And that leaves people in that marginal space. And then when the old system falls apart, those people in that marginal space have already been through the biggest shock, which is the separation from that old space. And so what I'm seeing is, I'm not the only one here teaching. There's a lot of teachers, and then there's ETs that are, the talk now is, okay, we've taken a break, let's go back, let's show up in a lot more places, surprise a few more people, because the people that have seen us are in this place where they're shocked open.
Yeah.
And that's what is needed to make it through what is happening as the old system comes down.
Okay, that
has to be built.
So if that shocked person in that new frequency system, you say that can impact, like 10 people around them.
Yeah.
Will those 10 people then impact 10 more? Is that
lesser so?
Okay.
Not quite as much, but
it's like a wave. It dissipates a little as it goes out.
But then, the person who gets shocked awake goes looking, starts asking questions, starts, digging, going down the rabbit hole, they call it. and that then, then they look for somebody to talk to. And of course, people shut them out. They get answers like, how do you like my new dress? So,
oh my God.
Yeah. But once you've been shocked awake, once you've been awakened, you can't go back to sleep. And if you try, it drives you crazy. You can't. So
that is true.
It's a low, messy process. But I think what we're seeing with ETs showing up in the conversation, I think Trump, he's going to announce it. No, he's not. Yes, he is. Maybe he will. Oh, when? Here, he set it up, and on and on and on. And all of that is keeping that whole ET thing alive. And that is to our benefit.
Yeah.
So the people who poo-poo that whole thing, those who are awake can say, well, come here. Let me hold your hand. I'm sorry that you didn't know. You really didn't want to know, but, it's real. What's real is that the old world is defunct, is coming apart, is not going to work. And it is no longer working. And it stopped working a long time ago.
And you can't stuff that back. You just...
Nope. ETs don't even matter. What they're after is the change in consciousness that allows us to build a new world, a better world on a different basis, little different level of consciousness. So, yeah, we're getting there.
So I saw a post on social media, I think it was Instagram or something, and it just had 2 words, and it said frequency heals.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Which brings us all the way back to...
Yeah. Frequency is, I'm gonna focus on frequency in this new class, Journey into Consciousness, that I start March 6th. And I am just thinking, if people can get to an understanding of frequency, we will be home, maybe not free, but at home.
It'll certainly accelerate.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm, for anybody out there who's listening or hears this, just send a little, wink and a prayer of thanks to the ETs that really take a risk, because there's some people in the US and in other countries that try to shoot down, they keep stuff going in a particular direction in the hope that somebody's going to fly through it and go boom. It's like, oh. So there are people who are really working to help.
Yeah.
So we
So
are
our
not
call to
alone.
action is thank your local ET.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Oh my.
Any
Yeah.
final,
So,
any final thoughts, Penny, that you want to share before we sign off?
I think if I had my druthers, I would just, what I would say would be to remind everybody that we all came from ETs. When this civilization started after the last destruction, the big destruction, 12,000 years ago, there was a lot of ET DNA that was donated to help bring us back to the point that we could survive and thrive on our own. So we're all from there.
Yeah.
From somewhere. Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. I hope this was as interesting for you as it was for me. Boy, the time sure flew by tonight, Penny.
Yeah, it did. I'm sorry that we went a little over what we usually do. So,
Okay.
yeah. Okay. So we'll say goodbye.
All right. We'll see you next month.
Yeah,
Oh, can I do a little commercial real quick?
absolutely. Go ahead.
I have the channel Journey to the New Earth. You might be watching this on Penny's channel,
Yeah.
Penny Kelly Official. I have Journey to the New Earth, and I'm doing a monthly series with satanic ritual abuse survivor Max Lowen.
Oh,
We just did our second in the series yesterday, Sunday morning at 10 a.m. It's the last Sunday of every month. You can go over and see that. She is doing such great work, folks. Such great work. Take a look at it. You'll learn so much. Support her, and stick with us for coming in March. Will be the last Sunday of the month again.
all right. Oh, very nice. I'm so glad
right.
you're doing that. So,
Yeah, she's a great gal. She's
yeah.
a really warrior. She's a strong. All
Yeah.
right.
Okay. All right. We'll say goodbye to everybody. Okay. Bye-bye.